Hello everyone, welcome to Sunya IAS and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture of mains article discussion, we are going to cover a very important topic on which you can get a separate 10 or 15 marker. The topic is lateral entry or lateral entry, however you want to call it. As is clearly visible, it is a topic of GS2, and within GS2 also it is a topic that you mostly cover in governance because it is a reform in civil services. Okay, it is one of the ways in which the steel frame of India is being improved. We are trying to improve the steel frame of India. Now, before moving forward with lateral entry and what it is going to be, how we are going to tackle a question, let me just answer your questions regarding the notes which you often ask in the comments. So, with regards to the notes, in the beginning of the class itself, I'm telling you that there are two ways that you can obtain the notes for this particular class. One is you can go for the Sunya IAS books. So this particular topic you will find in GS2 book, right? As it is, you will be having detailed notes over there. Second is, if you do not have the book or you are somehow not planning to order, you can make handwritten notes as well. PDFs we will not be availing, right? I'm already telling you that either it is the books or you can make handwritten notes as the class proceeds. So this is something that I wanted to tell you regarding the notes. The second thing, coming to the topic, lateral entry. Now, there are two ways a question from this will be asked, and question will definitely be asked. I mean, this is a piece of information that once you finish it, this piece of information is going to be used somewhere or the other across the papers for you. Not just in GS2, somewhere in GS4 also you can mention. Okay. So let's see. In lateral entry, either you can get a direct question. What is lateral entry? Assess the impact of lateral entry on civil services. That is a question that you can get mostly in 10 marks. Okay. If you do not get this kind of a question, you will get a question on civil services reforms, right? It is a separate separate subject, separate syllabus head, civil services reform. So lateral entry and allowing lateral entry is one of the civil services reforms that we talk about, right? So these are the two ways in which you can utilize this topic. Now let's come to the actual topic. So what is lateral entry? Whenever you see the term lateral, it means that it is something which is not coming directly. Okay, it's coming laterally. So if the manner in which our bureaucracy proceeds, the first stage is your UPSC examination itself for which you are preparing, or state public service commissions, right? After that, it is a promotional ladder. And the peak of this promotional ladder is cabinet secretary, right? At the union level and similarly at the state level. This is the general flow of promotion, general flow of induction in the higher services. But when we talk about lateral entry, and you can note down this definition as well, lateral entry is the direct induction. So here, let's say joint secretary level, you will reach by getting promoted after about 15 years of service or 20 years of service or so on and so forth. Not even 15, 20, more than that. So here, lateral entry allows direct induction. Direct induction. There are some key phrases of this definition which you have to mention. Direct induction in the middle and senior level. Middle and senior level bureaucracy. So it is not the starting of bureaucracy. It is not the induction level. It is not the beginning level of bureaucracy that we are having this lateral entry. We are having it at middle or senior level of bureaucracy. Direct induction in the middle and senior level bureaucracy from experts of respective field. Experts of respective fields. Fine. So this is how you can say. And another thing which you can add in your introduction itself, that officially it was included in the Indian bureaucracy. It began in Indian bureaucracy in 2019. So 2019, you will be able to remember, it was the year when COVID-19 virus was actually started, right? So 2019 was the year when the lateral entry began in India. Now, why it began, what are the benefits, what are the challenges, what are the way forward, we will talk about it. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So, whenever you get a question on lateral entry, you have to divide it into three parts. What is lateral entry? You do not have to tell when the lateral entry happened, in the sense key. You do not have to make a flow chart like this and tell 3-4 instances when the lateral entry happened, because this is not adding anything to your answer. Are you understanding? Even if you have to give examples, you will give examples only when and where it will add value to your answer. Not every topic requires you to give examples. Okay. Here it's a very theoretical topic, lateral entry. So the need for lateral entry is that it helps in induction of fresh talent, fresh and expert in their field, right? So all these points tell the same thing. Widens the talent pool, fresh talent in policy making, entry and retention of talent in government. Don't write all of this. This is for your understanding, right? So for example, let's say when we talk about people like Nandan Nilekani. Nandan Nilekani, he was not a career bureaucrat. He has not been a career bureaucrat, but has been instrumental in suggesting economic reforms in India, right? In fact, the entire Aadhaar scheme was programmed and designed by Nandan Nilekani itself. And it is very obvious, that people who have basically experience in their own field, only they can bring that experience in policy making, because civil servants by themselves are generalists. You all know that, right? In fact, now there are talks that the optional might be removed eventually. Might be, may not be very soon, but maybe one day it will be removed. So when we are talking about such kind of generalist people getting into the bureaucracy, it's not a bad thing. It is the job of administration. But those people who are administering, are the same people eligible and experienced enough to make the policies also? Because at joint secretary level, you are engaged in policy making also, not just policy execution. Although you are a part of the permanent executive, but you are engaged in policy making also. Okay. So are the generalists capable enough? Are they experienced enough? Not necessarily. Okay. Then availability of manpower will also increase. See, the thing is, right now in our country, we have a shortage of about 1500 IAS officers. That means 1500, approximately 1500 IAS officers. That is not just DM. Okay, that is not just DM. They can be SDM level, they can be joint secretary level, even the cabinet secretary for that matter. Cabinet secretary is only one, but you have to have the option of having experts from private sector also, even eventually for cabinet secretary. Now it has its own disadvantages also. If you think about it, that then if you can bring anyone out of the blue with experience in their field into policy making, there might be threat of political bias also, right? So that is why that is not advisable at the cabinet secretary level, but at the joint secretary level that is there. So that is there. Then Baswan committee, you can mention this committee. Even the Baswan committee recommended that lateral entry should be happening. Along with the Baswan committee, please remember that Niti Aayog has also recommended that lateral entry should be happening, and it recommended it in its 3-year action agenda. 3-year action agenda. Now, when you are having a 10 marker, let's say, or a 15 marker wherein this lateral entry aspect is only a point, there is no point of you writing 3-year action agenda. Okay. But if you are having enough space, let's say if you get a 15 marker only on lateral entry, then you can mention the specifics that Niti Aayog in its 3-year action agenda recommended. Along with it, Baswan committee also recommended. Do not go for overdoing or over memorizing or overwriting committees, because after one point of time, after writing 2 or 3 committees, let's say 2 committees also, the point gets nullified. Okay, you have made your point, you have substantiated the point also with the views of a particular committee. Now writing more and more and more committees who are saying the same thing will not add any value to your answer, will not give you any fetch you any extra marks. Okay, then it will also lead to better governance, because in private sector people survive on the survival of the fittest, right? Survival of the fittest. If you are not doing your work, if you are not performing, if you are not giving returns to the company, you are not of any value to the company, right? That is what private sector is all about. If people with that mindset come to the government, then they will be habitual to performing. Right now, what is the backdrop of a sarkari naukri, of a government job? The backdrop is job stability. I can guarantee you that everyone who is watching this video right now, and if you share also this opinion, if you ask this question from your friends also, everyone, at least 99 out of 100 people will tell you that job security is one of the things because of which they are going into the services, because the pay is not that much, right? The living conditions might be great, but they are very tough also, right? So job security is one of the primary reasons. Now, when someone has spent their entire life, let's say 15 years, 20 years, 25 years into private sector, they are used to performance, they will bring that efficiency into the administration and it will improve. So, and another thing that will happen is it will push the career diplomats also. Now, what is career diplomats? Career bureaucrats, sorry, not diplomats. Diplomacy is used specifically for the foreign services. So the career bureaucrats. What are career bureaucrats? Who are climbing up the ladder of promotions through the induction stage, through they were recruited through the UPSC examination and now they are being promoted and they are career bureaucrats. So when they see that a joint secretary is performing really well, bringing up the results, etc., even they will be pushed, right? That is how it works. Culture of performance will be created. A participatory government will be promoted, because when there is to and fro from the private sector, ultimately what is the job of the government? The job of the government is a service provider, right? So if there is an efficient to and fro of the officials from the private sector, the services that are provided will also be improved, and it will be improved in the interest of the people. See, there are so many people, there have been so many people in our policy making level. For example, former RBI governor Raghuram Rajan. Now, though he did have some fallouts with the central government, even for that matter, Urijit Patel, right? These are the people who bring their expertise, okay? Especially when we talk about Raghuram Rajan, he predicted a few movements of Indian economy which all turned out to be true. You know, massive inflation. Now we've been having inflation which has been above 6% for many quarters now, right? He predicted all of that. He predicted the impact of COVID and everything. So all this comes from experience. It will not come from just serving as an administrator, and that is why you need to have Lateral entry. Ultimately, it is all about, in a welfare state, it is all about serving the people itself. Okay. Then we will also be seeing target oriented functioning, right? We will also be seeing target oriented, and this is similar to this talent, target oriented, performance oriented. It will be very clear that if you are not performing, you will not be promoted, you will not be retained also. Okay. And overall, there have been precedents also. We have seen very talented people, like for example, Montek Singh Ahluwalia. Montek Singh Ahluwalia. People who have come from organizations like World Bank, who have not cleared the UPSC examination, but still have contributed immensely, and not just in India. Even for that matter, in foreign institutions, there is no concept of papers, right? But even there's Geeta Gopinath. You know Geeta Gopinath, something about her, that she did attempt the UPSC examination, could not qualify, but eventually became the head of the IMF. Right, so that is an international example, not relevant here. But Montek Singh Ahluwalia is here, Vijay Kelkar is here, Kelkar committee you must be knowing, right? So these are the people whose name you can mention, who have done good work in their fields, in economy, in railways, everything that makes the life of the common citizen better. Okay. Now, there are certain concerns also. A balanced answer will always write the concerns as well and give approximately equal weightage. So, here, before going to the concerns, let me just remind you that if it is a 10 marker, because you know, if you're actually preparing for the UPSC examination, you have to see the final result. This is your answer sheet. On the first one, the question is written. So that means you have this much space for your intro and whatever small information you want to write, if you want to. You have this much space for your benefits, this much space for your concerns, this much space for your way forward, and then a small conclusion. That is how your 10 markers are written. Within this much space, always train your mind to think. I'm not saying that you narrow down your thinking. That is not the way to go. What I'm saying is, just try to think in the final product. What will you write in the final product? So that's why when I said that you don't need to write all of these pointers within the pointers, right? Just because you have in the notes, you have it written in the notes in a certain way, does not mean that you have to replicate as it is in your answer. Please understand. Okay. So that is there. So now, if we talk about the concerns, the first concern is the bureaucratic concern, bureaucratic resistance, bureaucratic challenges, that the career diplomats, career bureaucrats, I don't know why I keep saying diplomat again and again, career bureaucrats, they are not actually very receptive, that we have spent so many years of our lives in this service, and now when it comes to being promoted as the joint secretary, someone from the private sector is coming and taking that position. They're not very receptive to that, rightly so, because there is no culture of competition in the bureaucracy. So lack of cooperation. Then even within, as I told you, the private sector is used to working in a certain manner where there is competitiveness, where there is, you know, cutthroat competition. If you talk about profits, even if there is a 1% or 2% decline in profit margins, there are meetings which are called, there are proper strategies which are created to actually correct the pathway, right? There is no such concept because there is no competition in the government. That is why we are going for PPP models. Even in railways now, even in railways, we are promoting the semi-private model. Some trains are being run by the private sector. So that is there. So the adjustment in work culture is actually difficult for the people who are coming. The sarkari culture actually can end up harming the productivity. Then it will lead to demotivation both of the people who are working and the one who is entering also. Lack of opportunity to gain expertise in administration. See, people can be experts. Let's say, for example, you might rope in an environmentalist. you might rope in an environmentalist as the joint secretary of environment ministry. You can do that, है ना? But does that mean that the environmentalist understands the nitty gritties of administration? Things like budgetary concerns, things like political concerns, right? Political pressures and whatnot. So people don't understand it, especially when you are getting private sector people. They, one thing that they really don't understand is what kind of political pressures are there. है ना? If you want to sanction 1,000 crore project, there will be 100 political pressures that will be coming up. How elections shape up public policy, right? So all these things, they come from experience of being a bureaucrat. They come from experience on the field and training, mid-level training also. So that much they do not have, and that will impact them. That's why they end up being demotivated also, right? Then issues in appointment. So the first thing, what is the structure of Indian bureaucracy and why is Indian bureaucracy so sought after? Indian bureaucracy is so sought after because it gives an opportunity to even the most disadvantaged section of the society to appear for the same examination for which the son or the daughter of a civil servant is appearing. Okay, and that in itself is a very big motivator. Why do most people do not go into politics? Why do people fear from going to the politics? You see, anyone whose family is not into politics, they will not be comfortable with the idea of getting into politics. Why? Because they know that politics as a stream or as a profession has been dominated by a few families, has been dominated by a few clans, and it's very difficult to make their way through. But in bureaucracy, we have created an objective way of gaining power for even the ones who are completely powerless. And that is why we had reservations. We have the SC reservation, we have the ST reservation, we have the OBC reservation, now we have the EWS reservation also, right? So all these things point to the fact that direct entry, lateral entry will be taking away the reservation scheme and the benefits of reservation from the people and will take away the objectivity. Okay, transparency is not there. There is no basis on which you are selecting. There is no objective criteria on the basis of which you are selecting people, right? It is the discretion of the executive. And this also means that if you have inducted someone at joint secretary level and that someone is a person of your choice, you know, you are the government of India, you are bringing someone of your choice as a joint secretary, that means the politically neutral executive, the bureaucracy, is not politically neutral anymore, right? They are politically biased now because they are indebted to you for choosing them. So what it will lead to? It will lead to a spoils system. Spoils system. What is spoils system? When the head of the government, who's the head of the government? It's the prime minister. So the prime minister will be choosing people who are close to him to run the bureaucracy, right? That is there. And then of course there is vague eligibility of of candidates that is given. So for example, there was an advertisement in 2018 for the lateral entrance, and you know what was the criteria that was given? The criteria, one of the criteria that was given was that the person should be a PhD. Now, being a PhD, and it was not even mentioned in which field, in which subject, from which university, from which board, nothing. Just should be a PhD. And PhD as a degree, though very respectable, does it make you eligible to become an administrator, right? What if there is no legitimacy to the PhD being granted? Okay. What if the institution is not that rigorous? So you cannot have such vague classifications, vague conditionalities to actually choose the topmost bureaucrats of the country and that is why it is an issue. Then the real issue where it shows that why lateral entry can be challenging. I would not say harmful, because any new reform that you bring in will have its challenges, and what you have to do is you have to smoothen out the challenges gradually. Okay, so when you bring someone for short term, they do not have any long term vision, because they will be paid a certain salary. There are no incentives also. Private sector runs on incentive. In public sector there is no incentive, so they know that they are just adding on something to their CV, that's all. Right, so when they add that they have worked in a government sector for about 2 to 5 years, mostly they are recruited for 2 to 5 years. They are just doing it for the CV, है ना, so that maybe they can become they can be recruited to the board of directors of a particular company by their strengthening their credentials and all. So is the motive public welfare, or is it not public welfare? There's lack of field experience, we have talked about it. Let's say if you recruit a very senior doctor, of uh, let's say a hospital like AIMS, right? All India Institute of Medical Sciences. You're recruiting a very senior doctor as a joint secretary of the health ministry. He or she is not aware, serving at AIMS for so many years, that what are the challenges of rural healthcare, primary healthcare centers. Okay. And most of our efforts have to be directed towards improving those areas. So again, then difficult to ensure responsibility and accountability, because they are for very short term. Fundamental transition from private to public sector. This is something, and this is something which also demotivates from people to apply. So for example, the pay, right now the pay of a cabinet secretary, the lump sum monthly salary would be about 2.5 lakh. That is the max, right? This is maximum amount that you are earning as the topmost bureaucrat of the country, right? There are perks and all of that, that is separate. But does this amount attract someone who might be making 50 lakh a month? No, it will not attract someone who's making 50 lakh a month. So either the person will be having massive public welfare motive, that can be one reason that they are entering, but such people are very few. Because if you are recruiting someone who's 55 to 60 years of age, they have a family, they might have grandkids also by now, they have some responsibilities on their shoulder, and coming from about, let's say, not even 50 lakhs, let's say even 20 lakh per month if they are earning. And for a successful corporate business owner or even a corporate employee, there are people in the topmost elite category who are earning 20 lakh a month. Okay, so from here to here, there is no comparison. Okay, and that's why we come back to this particular point, that it is just a CV making exercise for people, so that from this 20 they can transition to a package of 40 in the next company, that they have worked in the government sector also. Okay, so there is overall narrow scope because of the lesser pay, it is very clear. Then sharing of public information is a very big threat. See, the bureaucrats, their families depend on their job. They are used to maintaining the official secrets. They are bound under Official Secrets Act also. And they are used to following the civil services conduct rules for so many years. So it becomes a habit that whatever crucial information they know about the government, they will not share it. They will not share it even with the family. But someone from the private sector coming to the government sector, they can actually end up leaking some information which will be harmful, right? Then overall conflict of interest can happen, because if someone is coming into the government from the private sector and they give a very big contract to a company which they are associated with, affiliated with, or which their governments are their relatives are affiliated with, that can lead to issues, right? That is there. Then other issues, they are very common issues, you can just write down. That's it's just a method of promotion of vested interest and introduction of pro-establishment candidates. This point you should must mention. You must mention that there is objectivity is missing, right? Objectivity is missing, and because objectivity is missing, the central government somehow will be very easily able to bring in the people who it wants to bring in, bringing us to again the spoils system aspect of it. Then we have started this process of lateral entry very recently, and slowly we are actually increasing the number of vacancies we are putting out, right? So we bring up about 15 or 20 posts of joint secretaries, of additional secretaries, and we publish them in the newspapers. So this this initiative is not going anywhere. What we have to do is we have to streamline the initiative. We have to make it better for us to be able to derive maximum benefits out of it, because 75 years of our independence have made it very clear that we cannot leave the entire administration of our country in the hands of only generalists. We have to bring some specific experts into our policy making, right? So what we can do, first of all, we have to generate awareness. Right now, how do we put forward these vacancies? We put them forward through newspapers. We need to generate awareness even through social media that such kind of recruitment is happening, because the best of the best minds, they are maybe not reading the newspaper in which you are publishing your ad, right? So you need to reach the right kind of people. Then the process of induction has to be made more objective. So for example, the process of induction needs to be through some sort of examination, not as rigorous as the UPSC examination for sure, but a proper examination, not just through an interview process, not just on the basis of existing CVs, because there is a lot of discretion that is involved. Are you understanding? So it has to be. And why do you think there are just small vacancies which are being put out? That is because of the lobbies of bureaucrats. They are not letting the government of India bring out so many vacancies that the lateral entrants actually end up wiping out the career bureaucrats. That is not happening. But even for the lateral entrants, there has to be, at the induction stage, there has to be examination, a objective examination. Then there has to be retention. And for retention, some sort of incentive structure has to be created, right? Some sort of incentive structure has to be created for the retention of the people who are actually doing good work for the government of India, for the state overall. Then when it comes to the just a second, sorry, when it comes to the existing career bureaucrats, even their service conditions have to be improved, their performance reviews have to be improved. So let's see, recruitment has to be through open competition, and even for the lateral entrants, there has to be training and the on ground level. Okay, training at the on ground level, so that they are aware about the nitty-gritties of the bureaucracy, right? Then their performance has to be reviewed every few years. So the career bureaucrats, I'm saying, the second ARC, please note this down, the second ARC has recommended that the performance of career bureaucrats should be reviewed at every 14 years and then at the completion of 20 years. So once the bureaucrat completes 14 years, then the performance is reviewed, and then at 20 years performance is reviewed. And the people who are not performing, they should be voluntarily retired. Okay, they should be voluntarily retired by the government of India, because they will be they will be taking up resources, they will be taking up time and energy, and they will also keep blocking the space, um, as against inducting the people who are more talented and hardworking. So you have to remove the non-performers, and you can also follow certain international practices. So for example, in UK, at the cabinet secretary level, people are inducted at the cabinet secretary, highest bureaucrat. People are inducted from the private sector through their CVs, through their interviews, right? So UK's practice can be taken. Then overall within civil services also there has to be specialization. So right now the only specialization that we have is the optional paper when it comes to the civil services, and even that is the people are saying that might be removed, might be removed. But we need to understand that every civil servant cannot be a generalist. And if we want to take away the issues of lateral entry, and we want to ensure that even the people who are career diplomats, career bureaucrats, they are um, performing well, then we need to ensure that they develop their capacities in such a manner. So maybe their ministry allocation can be done on the basis of the optional that they chose, and of course on the basis of their performance, right? So all these things, these are way forward. If you have any other suggestions that you want to put forward with this way forward, you can bring that across in the comment section, because I always tell you that your mind should not stop when I stop speaking. Your mind should start working as I stop speaking, because you must think, okay, ma'am has told 5 ways or 7 ways. There are 10 other ways or 5 other ways in which the civil services can be improved. Or there are 2, 3 other issues also that I can think of. So if you can think of any other issues, please give it in the comments. I would appreciate that. है ना? And yes, that is all for this lecture. I have told you about the notes in the beginning of the class. You can scroll back and see. And I will see you all in the next lecture. Thank you for watching.